Hello everyone, this is Kathy from the Daily Marker. How are you today? I'm so excited. It's day 2 of the 30-day coloring challenge, and I've created this card for you today using 2 different stamp companies. Today's a mega blog hop, and I'm combining different companies. I've done 2 videos for day 2, and I'm using these awesome, beautiful women from Stamping Bella. There's a whole bunch of these women in a collection, and I'm pairing her with Concord and Ninth's beautiful butterfly stamp set. These 2 stamps go perfect together. The scale is perfect. Now I've pulled out my phone because this is a rubber, a blue rubber stamp, kind of like red rubber, but it's blue. So I pulled out my phone pad. I'm inking this up with some archival ink. I'm going to watercolor today. Actually, in my other video, I'll be using Copic markers. So I'm watercoloring this, and now I'm stamping the butterfly from Concord and Ninth. And I'm just going to fussy cut them. I don't have the die cuts for these, and it's super easy to fussy cut, so that's what I'm going to do. Now that my images are stamped, I'm going to be using some Tombow watercolor markers. They're very vibrant and bold, and they're super easy to use, as you will see. Now I love how the Stamping Bella, their images are colored for a guideline, so you saw me look at that really quick. And I haven't used Tombow marker probably since the last coloring challenge, so I'm just testing how it blends, scribbling some on the paper here and using a wet paintbrush to soften that color, just kind of like a little refresher for me. And I'm also kind of testing the color scheme that I've picked out. I kind of want a monochromatic, I can't do muted, but sort of a monochromatic card. And I want the butterfly to be more vibrant than the girl. So I'm just coloring straight onto this Tim Holtz watercolor paper with the markers, and I'm just focusing on the edges. I want to bring the eye into the center of the butterfly. So we'll see. That's the theory. And I'm just using a wet paintbrush to soften those lines. And that's all that you have to do. Tombow watercolor markers are very forgiving, and so is Distress ink are very forgiving. They don't have as much pigment in them as like the tube stuff and the palette stuff. So I feel like anyone can do this. Sometimes with a more pigmented watercolor, I have trouble washing them out, if that makes any sense. So I'm just moving around this butterfly, deciding if I want a little bit more orange. Now I don't have a palette, and I'm too lazy to get up, so I scribbled some of the Tombow marker onto the Stamping Bella packaging here, and I'm just picking up some of that color. I'm loading my brush and dropping some of that color onto the butterfly. Super easy. And I'm just kind of letting the water and the colors work together. And I tend to always overwork things, so the butterfly it's kind of a mash of color in the end when it dries. But oh well. Okay, so now I'm moving on to this adorable girl and just kind of focusing on the pattern in her clothes and picking up some color from a palette. I'm sorry you can't see that. I'm watching myself, and I'm like, where is that palette? And I'm also doing some direct marker to paper and then softening that with a fine tip paintbrush there, because this, on her tights, it's a very small area, so you want to use a much smaller brush. I'm only really using 2 brushes during this coloring session here. So it's super easy to watercolor. I forget how easy it is. I really need to do it more, and I'll be doing more of it during the challenge. So while I finish her up, I'm just going to talk about the challenge. As I mentioned, today's the second day, and there's a big hop I organized with so many stamp companies that I love and I have relationships with, and they're all wonderful people and so kind and have always been so supportive of the challenge. And the person that I am, I always worry about hurting people's feelings because there's so many other great stamp companies out there, and there's lots of smaller ones that have worked with me during the coloring challenge and everything. But so I hope no one's feelings are hurt, and I'll be using other companies throughout the challenge that I love as well. But I just kind of wanted to keep it simple and relationships that I've had longer. So that kind of explains that, why this company and not that company. But so that's the story. And just a little recap. All the links to all the companies in the blog hop will be on my blog, TheDailyMarker.com. And I'm pretty sure that most of them will be doing giveaways on their individual blogs, which is super exciting. So please, I know you'll visit all those blogs because you normally visit those companies' blogs anyway. And most of you know the coloring challenge is for anybody, and you can color with anything. If markers is your thing, if you just have Sharpies, just use Sharpies. If you're an illustrator, that works. It's for anybody, and it's all about community. So when you go to my blog, I'll link you to a more informative video, and that's kind of it in a nutshell. So I'm just finished her hair. I'm putting some more color onto my makeshift palette here and just working some color down on her arms. Now, one more thing, I just want to mention how to share. There's a Facebook page for the coloring challenge that you can share your work on. Instagram has a wonderful supportive community. And I'll also have a link on my blog where you can upload your art on my blog. So lots of ways. Don't be shy. It's very rewarding sharing. And I think you'll, especially if you do it on Instagram or Facebook, I think you'll get a lot out of it. Now, I wanted to bring some darker color into the butterfly, a little bit of brown, since I have some brown on the girl. So I'm just working a little bit on the edges of brown, and then I'll just wash that out a little bit. Now, if you're kind of like me and you feel like you get too much color saturation on your image, you can just wet or spray the whole thing and then take a paper towel or a cloth and lift up some of that color. So almost everything is fixable. So keep that in mind if you get too much color. Like I've got quite a bit of color here, that would probably work for me. And when I'm done with my coloring, I'm going to, which you will see, splash paint onto the butterfly. And you always have to make sure that your other image is way out of the way in a nice, safe area. Now first I'm working on the background, and I'm just really saturating this brush here, and I'm tapping that brush and just getting some paint splatters onto my paper, and then I'm going to do the same with the purple and the orange. So it's kind of an artsy, fun background. I used to have a box where I would do this, which is probably a pretty good idea, or clean up your area first, because I splattered all my markers and pretty much everything. But fortunately, my image was tucked away and that wouldn't be splashed on. So the butterfly's splashed on and the background is, and then I'll cut these out. I forgot that I need a little bit of brown onto this background, and then I'm finished. You can heat set that or just set it aside to dry. And I chose to heat set it. Could also spray it with some water and kind of get a more muted splatter effect. So just experiment and have fun. And that's kind of what the coloring challenge is all about. Kind of going a little bit out of your comfort zone and just taking a little bit of time for yourself every day. I'm talking 10 minutes. So I'm just fussy cutting her, and then I'll take a Memento black marker and cover up those white edges. And now I'm cutting out the butterfly, and I'll do the same thing with the marker. The butterfly is super easy. Just cut it in half, cut it out. And I do this on everything that I cut out. I take a Memento marker, move that around the edges. I don't want to see any white lines. It gives it a much more finished look. So I'll put that away, and I'm just figuring out where I want that to go. And now I need to add some of my white dots. You guys know I love to do that. And I'm only going to do it on the chest area of her shirt and the butterfly. You don't really have to worry about doing each side, the right and left side of the butterfly, the wings the same, but I decided to do that. So I'm just going to drop in different dots here and there, and then when I'm finished, I'll take my black Sharpie marker and do a little pin dot in the center of all these white dots. You could also take some Distress ink and just smear that on the top corners, well, the corners, the top and the bottom, and that would really make these pop. But I didn't think of that at the time, but trust me, it really just enriches what you've done. Now I took a Sharpie and I outlined the butterfly only. It's so rare I never do the main image, but I just wanted to keep her softer. And now I have a scrap piece of paper here. I'm curling up the wings. I want to give them more dimension. And then I'm going to glue them right there like that, because it gives me a better wingspan since I'm gluing it behind her shirt. And I'm just did another piece to cover up that glossy accent. And then all I need to do is stamp my sentiment, and I am finished. I'm going to pop the butterfly onto my background, and that's it. I always love to put a pop of color on the inside, and I chose orange for this. So it was really, this card came together very quickly. And there you go. So this is the finished card. Oh, I colored some twine and tied it around her neck. You know, chokers are so in style. And that was kind of a fun last minute accent. So it's the 30-day challenge, people. I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and a thumbs up, and I'll see you tomorrow.